Celtics Today is presented by Aura, a all-in-one digital safety tool. If you go to aura.com/chatsports, that's where you can begin your 14-day free trial. I'm Will Scott. Welcome in to Celtics Today by Chat Sports. On today's show, we're going to be talking about some Robert Williams replacements. He's going to miss the start of the regular season, might even miss the first couple weeks of the regular season. We're going to talk about some guys that they can bring in to potentially replace him, because even before this injury, we were talking about the necessity of a backup center on this team. The Celtics need to go out and sign somebody. We're going to talk about their options because Williams is having to have his second knee surgery in the last 6 months. He tore the meniscus in his left knee back in March. He had surgery, I believe, on March 31st, and now he's having to have surgery again to clean up that knee. And back in June, the day after the Celtics lost the NBA Finals, I did a video here on Chat Sports, and I was talking about the Celtics to-do list. One of those things was trade for Malcolm Brogdon. The other thing was to make sure Robert Williams gets healthy, and apparently that is part of it, him having to have this cleanup surgery on his left knee to get 100% healthy. Here's what Adrian Wojnarowski said in his ESPN article yesterday, and he also said some of this on ESPN's NBA show yesterday. This is, I'm told, a cleanup. This is more of a cleanup in the left knee, a scope. So obviously, he'll miss training camp, the preseason, and very likely with this 4 to 6 week time frame into the start of the regular season. You know, Boston still has a roster spot left. There's some veteran bigs out there on the marketplace. If they decide they want to add somebody, Dwight Howard is out there, LaMarcus Aldridge is out there, a player I'm told they showed a little interest in this summer. But they expect to have Robert Williams back 100% fairly early in the season. So it remains to be seen if Boston feels like they need to go out and get some help. That coming from ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski. So he does mention the possibility of the Celtics bringing somebody in. We're going to go over some options. We're going to start with some in-house replacements, then some trade targets, and then some free agent targets as well for this Celtics team. But first, help us get to 13,000 subscribers. We're getting close. Need about 200 more. Go down, subscribe to the channel. We're a year-round Celtics channel. I can promise you, with training camp on the horizon, there's going to be some channels that are just now coming back. We even bring you content throughout the entire offseason. Go down, hit that big red subscribe button to stay in the loop with your Boston Celtics. So let's talk about some in-house replacements. Starting at number 3, they could maybe promote some camp signings to the active roster. However, Bruno Caboclo is not going to be one of those guys, and I was just talking with producer Patrick Seaman before the show because I thought Caboclo had a pretty damn good chance to make this roster, but he's not going to be with this basketball team moving forward. Shams Charania reported this yesterday. The Celtics have waived forward Bruno Caboclo. So Caboclo, along with Noah Vonleh and Jake Layman, were some camp signings that I thought might have a better chance to make the basketball team with Robert Williams III not going to be ready by the start of the season. But Caboclo's out. So Noah Vonleh and Jake Layman, that certainly helps their chances of maybe making this basketball team, as well as Fiondu Kabengele. Kabengele's on a 2-way contract. Luke Kornet is another guy that could be an in-house replacement. I didn't feel comfortable with him being Robert Williams' backup. I definitely don't feel comfortable with him being the Robert Williams replacement, but he's an option. Brad Stevens apparently very high on this guy. I mean, I'm not denying there's a potential with Kornet, but he just doesn't have the experience that I want logging big-time minutes early in the season. This is a championship basketball team. This is a basketball team's looking to win the ship this year. I can't have Luke Kornet getting starter-like minutes early in the season, which is probably why Al Horford is going to be the replacement the first couple weeks. So let's say that Williams misses the first 2 weeks of the season, which looks likely. They'll probably just play Horford at the 5, have Kornet back up Al Horford, and then start Grant Williams at the 4. That seems to be the likely option right now. Then Sam Hauser would be in the rotation, backing up Grant Williams at the 4. That's probably what they're going to do if Williams doesn't have to miss several weeks here. Now, what should the Celtics do? Should they do nothing? Should they just stick with some in-house replacements, some in-house options, or should they go out and make a trade? Should they sign a free agent? They have a roster spot open. Now 2 roster spots open with Caboclo gone. Type in for nothing or type M for make a move. If they make a move, they might trade for one of these 3 guys. We began talking about Isaiah Stewart from the Detroit Pistons. I really like him. He's a former 5-star recruit. goes to the University of Washington. I was in shambles because Syracuse was after this guy. I'm a Syracuse alum, and he left the state. He's from Rochester, left the state, went all the way to play for Washington, for Coach Hopkins out there in Washington. So Stewart had a pretty good season last year with Detroit, definitely showed the promise we saw because he is a former first-round pick, 16th overall pick in the 2020 draft. 8.3 points per game, 8.7 rebounds per game. Now, the reason that he might be on the trade block is because they drafted Jalen Duren out of Memphis, who has a lot of upside, a lot of potential, looked very good in the Summer League. Maybe they would feel comfortable with trading Stewart if they feel good about Duren going forward. Let's talk about our friends over at Aura because they're going to keep your family safe from online hackers. This is an all-in-one digital safety tool. They're going to keep you and your family safe online so you can shop, bank, and work online more safely and privately. If there's an obnoxious Warriors fan trying to steal your credit card information, trying to make a purchase, Aura is going to alert you. They're going to be like, whoa. You're going to be like, whoa, I didn't order a Warriors jersey yesterday off of Fanatics. You know, they're going to keep you covered in terms of making sure you don't have any suspicious charges on your credit card. Start your 14-day free trial at aura.com/chatsports. That link in the comments and the description of this video. Again, they offer family plans to protect you and your loved ones from online hackers so you can keep your online identity safe. Let's talk about our next trade target here. That's Dwight Powell from the Dallas Mavericks, whose Boston stint back way long ago in 2014 only lasted 5 games. Now, he was involved in the Rajon Rondo trade. Believe it or not, he's been with the Mavs ever since. Now, Harrison Graham of Mavericks Today says that Dwight Powell is on the trade block after the acquisition of Christian Wood from Houston. Powell was the starting center for the Mavs last season. Here are the numbers that he put up in Dallas. 8.7 points per game, 4.9 rebounds per game, shot 67% from the floor. I don't think he's a very good starting center in the league, but I think he could be a good backup in Boston. No question about that. If you want to trade for Dwight Powell, type T for trade or type P for pass down in the comment section. Go down, let me know. It is the pinned comment on today's video. So when that break comes, go down and let me know if you want to trade for Dwight Powell. Let's talk about our next trade target here. Probably my favorite trade target. That is Naz Reid from the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now, he's a really good player, younger than Dwight Powell. Here are the numbers that he put up last season in Minnesota. 8.3 points per game, 3.6 rebounds per game, nearly a block per game, shot 34% from 3. I really like Naz Reid. He's my favorite potential trade target. He's very cheap. He would fit into the Celtics' remaining TPEs. Going to free agent targets now. Let's begin with Tristan Thompson. He's still out there and available. It's funny. Before the show, when I Googled Tristan Thompson, I was looking for some maybe Tristan Thompson to Boston rumors. Instead, it was all keeping up with the Kardashian stuff. So looks like he's occupied with some family drama, as we all know. Let's move on to our next free agent target. That is Enes Freedom, a familiar name. He spent last season with the Celtics, played in 35 games with Boston, averaged a little over 11 minutes per game, 3.7 points per game. He was traded to the Rockets in February and then waived. I don't believe he suited up at all for Houston and has not played in the NBA since. A lot of people think that's because of his activism. He's been very outspoken about a lot of things, including the NBA's relationship with China, criticizing Adam Silver for that. So a lot of people think he's being blackballed from the league. I'd like to see him get another shot. I think he's a pretty good player. And when I'm looking at maybe bringing him in, I'm not necessarily looking at the numbers from last year. I'm looking at the numbers from his year prior, Portland, because in Portland the year prior put up nearly 12 points per game, 11 rebounds per game as well. So we didn't see that in Boston last year, but I still think he has potential to put up pretty good numbers. Do you want to bring back Enes Freedom? Type B for bring back or type D for don't. Down in the comment section, go down, let me know. I don't think there's any harm in bringing him in on a training camp deal, especially after he let Caboclo go. Meyers Leonard, also still available. He's number 5 on our list here. We're going to be talking about 7 different free agent targets for the Boston Celtics. Now, Meyers did not play in the NBA last season. He was traded to the Thunder from the Heat, spent several seasons with the Heat in March of 2021, but then he was later released, did not play for OKC. And the trade came about a week after a suspension for using an anti-Semitic slur during a Twitch stream. So that's another reason, kind of similar, well, not really similar to Cantor, but a lot of people believe that Leonard has not played in the NBA because of that incident. So that is certainly worth noting. Let's move on now to DeMarcus Cousins. He is number 4 on my list here. I really liked Boogie, but this season, I don't know, he just didn't really prove any durability. Didn't play a whole lot last year with the Denver Nuggets. I think there's better options available for the Boston Celtics outside of Boogie Cousins. I'm not crazy about him. I just think there's better options. We're going to get to 3 names that I like a lot more than Cousins, but he's a notable name that is still available in free agency that's definitely been linked to Boston a couple times during the offseason. Dwight Howard, another name that has been linked to the Boston Celtics, especially in the last 24 hours after the Robert Williams news. Howard actually was linked to Boston by Adrian Wojnarowski. Woj mentioned Howard as a potential option for the Celtics after the Williams news. Here's what Howard did last season with LA. 6.2 points per game, 5.9 rebounds per game, 0.6 blocks per game. That stat is accurate. That is not a typo. He shot 53.3% from three-point range, really improving in that area. Do you want Dwight Howard in Boston? If so, go type 12 down in the comments. Yes, I know that was not his number last season in LA, but whenever I think about Dwight Howard, I think about the number 12. And you know what? Dwight's kind of a friend of mine. I'm not trying to brag. Dwight's kind of a buddy of mine. This is junior year of high school Will Scott interviewing Dwight Howard when he was with the Houston Rockets. So Dwight took the time to talk to a 16-year-old kid, and I've always been a big fan of Dwight ever since that. He's a great guy, so I think he'd fit well in the locker room in Boston because Boston, as we know, has a great culture, really good team chemistry. I think he'd fit really well with that. Take it from a guy who's met him. So that's my guy, Dwight Howard. LaMarcus Aldridge, though, ahead of Howard on my list here. Woj actually mentioned Aldridge as well as an option here for the Boston Celtics. Now, Aldridge retired because of an irregular heartbeat, then came out of retirement and played last season with the Brooklyn Nets. Certainly exceeded expectations with the Nets last season. Here's what he did. 12.9 points per game, 5.5 rebounds per game, 55% from the floor, a block per game for LaMarcus Aldridge last season in Brooklyn. So I think he's a really solid option here for the Celtics. But a better option than Hassan Whiteside? No. As you all know, I want Hassan Whiteside to come to the Boston Celtics. It needs to happen. I think this would be a fantastic signing for the C's. Here's what he did last season with the Utah Jazz. 8.2 points per game, 7.6 rebounds per game. What did the Celtics pride themselves on? Their defense. 1.6 blocks per game last season for Whiteside in Utah. 65% from the floor. He played on the vet minimum last season in Utah. Would probably be a pretty cheap option here for the Boston Celtics. And if you want Whiteside in Boston, I'm going to start a movement here. Tweet, hashtag Whiteside to Boston, and at Brad Stevens on Twitter, at BS Coach Stevens, and I will retweet your tweet. I know I'm not the only one that really wants Hassan Whiteside in Boston. Go and tweet Brad Stevens, hashtag Whiteside to Boston. I'll retweet your tweet. Let's get his attention. Luke Kornet cannot be the backup center the entire season. He cannot be logging major minutes with Robert Williams III out. We got to get Hassan Whiteside or another capable center to the Boston Celtics.